Hey guys, what's up? You are listening to the MLM Hero Radio. If you're anything like me, then you know that MLMs can be amazing business opportunities. But the major issue is, what do you do if you don't want to bug family members and friends? How do we recruit the best players into our downloads? This podcast is the answer to those and other grilling questions about MLMs as I've learned. My name is Terry Burkhart, and welcome to the MLM Hero Radio. Yeah, hope you guys like the energy. Life is definitely too short to not have fun. So, anyway, one of the reasons why it even took me a year to start recruiting people into my MLM was because I actually had a belief that I needed to be good at sales and speaking. And you know what I mean. Kind of like that Wolf of Wall Street guy, super smooth, says all the right things, in a suit and tie, gives off successful businessman vibes, always prim, proper, polished, always a stage speaker. You know what I'm talking about. So, I mean, I read books and was listening to people say dress like success, and I believed it. And I believe that, honestly, being a slick salesman and saying what people wanted to hear was being successful at getting people to give me money. I thought sales was because it was basically dressing a particular type of way and saying the right things. And honestly, I blame a lot of media and movies for giving off the wrong impression of what business really looks like. But the past 3 years now has shown me that really that's not how it is. It really is not. I've made more money being vulnerable by highlighting my differences rather than my strengths. And I've made way more money just by being myself. I've sold more products wearing a t-shirt and jeans than I did pretending to be something that I'm not. I realized that I didn't have to, one of my first sales jobs, I actually had to, I put on like a blazer, I had a button down with a tie, and polished shoes always. And it took me a couple of years to realize that I can do the same, if not a whole lot more, and ended up doing a whole lot more, sales that is, by being natural. I've walked into a group of people to sell wine and went against the total norm of what my corporate office told us to do. It was literally like, I think I was in a polo and some jeans and sneakers, and did the same thing, and I ended up selling a whole lot more wine than I usually did just because I was more comfortable being myself. But I realized that being myself, though, attracts more people to me than being some polished salesman. And now I'm myself, but I'm a whole lot louder. And trust me, I'm a very loud person in general. If you know me, I'm a very boisterous individual, and I'm proud of that. I embrace it. I embrace my confidence, my loud, abrasive self. Now, that said, I did decide though that I wanted to be a good salesman. So I downloaded a bunch of sales training videos, and I spent hours just consuming the content. And initially, in that interim, I was actually trying to sell windows. One of my first sales jobs was I was attempting to go door to door sales selling of windows, and that did not last very long. It was difficult, and I bowed out quicker than I thought I really would when I first started. But that's when I fell into the wine thing. And to be honest, selling wine, alcohol in general, is a whole lot more fun, but that's besides the point. But in the total scope of what I was doing when I was selling wine, it was face to face, a lot of events or home meetings, so to speak, where people would invite me out to be like a wine educator. But I'd say about a good 30 to 45% of it was over the phone. And if you've never done telemarketing before, it isn't fun. I would literally sit down for hours, like solid 8 to 10 hour blocks, and call hundreds, and then over the span of weeks, thousands of people to come get them to buy wine from me who haven't even made a purchase, in some cases 2 years, and in some cases over 5 years. So these people have not bought wine, but they did at one point in time. But now I'm basically cold calling all these people that do know about us, but realistically don't. And as For me personally, though, I really don't think that you need to go through all that. I just did it because I knew it would be hard and it would force me to handle rejection. So getting a lot of people to say no over the phone, it hardened my mental state. So I was able to handle no's better, so to speak. And eventually, I actually became good at selling over the phone, selling in face to face, but I was missing the whole marketing piece. And I thought it was the same thing because our corporate office, they were preaching that sales and marketing were pretty much the same thing. We would reach out to our clients ourselves and get them to buy our products. Essentially, we were our own lead gen. Sound familiar? But I was good at selling face to face when it came to wine because we had a corporate backing and I knew what I was doing, but I wanted more success. And one of the first things that one of the first events that I did when I was selling wine, we call it the Christmas show. And we would go in, we'd buy this booth. It would be like 20 foot by 10 foot. So it'd be 10 feet back, about 20 feet wide. And we'd have about four wine consultants, basically set up the entire booth from start to finish. And we would paint the walls, bring in the tables, and bring in the wine. And at the start of the event, we would have people walk by it because it was this huge Christmas convention. Where people would come in, they'd buy a bunch of knickknacks, and we would catcall people that were walking by our booth and, hey, you like wine? And bring them in and then basically pitch them to buy wine. And I realized that it didn't matter who talked to the individual. If someone came to the table, if they were called in, any one of us could sell that person. So if there were 5 people, there would be 5 individuals that the client, so to speak, that came into the booth. It didn't really matter who pitched them a wine. They didn't know our product. They didn't know our services. They didn't know us. It was our job to educate them, but it didn't matter if it was me or somebody else to do it. And initially I was really good because I just basically said how I felt about the wine. I was talking about how I even got into wine and what I knew about it and how much fun it was. And a lot of people resonated with that. The moment I started actually learning more and more about wine, like terroirs, learning about sulfites, learning about catechins, learning about how the wine is being made, I would bring people in the same process and I would just tell them about all this information and just regurgitate all this stuff about wine. And it caused more people to walk away because it became less about a conversation of enjoying wine and more about me regurgitating information and saying all these fancy words that made me sound smart. And I really didn't understand why some people were buying from me and some people weren't. And I just felt that I was being educating, or I would educate them, and I was very knowledgeable. And it didn't dawn on me as to what was happening until basically I was talking to some friends about another interest of mine. And I'm big into health and fitness. I love intermittent fasting. I love human physiology and what happens inside the body with particular nutrients. And I can go on and on and on about what the body does when you fast, how long you should fast, what foods you should break the fast with. But after like 5 minutes of talking about nutrition, people's eyes glaze over, they stop listening, and they're like, and I know you've been there before, especially when and MLMs are notorious for this, when you're sitting there and you're trying to explain all the perks and benefits about your comp plan, about how great the lifestyle is, how good the products are. It's honestly, most people don't care about like good products or comp plans. They care about whys. And what I realized was I was techno-babbling. Essentially, I was just saying a bunch of stuff and confusing a lot of people out of a sale. So I would talk my way out of a sale because I would talk too much. Now, ironically, podcasting is a great way for me to talk a lot because it is a podcast after all, which is fantastic for me because I like talking. I get that from my father. Whether it's a good thing or a bad thing, it's still to be determined. But anyway, so I realized that the more knowledge that I gained on a subject, no matter what it was, I felt an urge to talk about that. And until I could realize how much information somebody needed before they were able to make a decision, I would just give them all the information up front, and ultimately they would want to avoid me. It didn't matter if I was holding them $100 bill to talk to me. They would walk away. It didn't matter what it was. They didn't want to be around me. But that was when I realized that I really just needed to be better at storytelling. I needed to be better at communicating and just telling stories as a whole. There are tons of books out there that preach good marketers are good storytellers, and to put this in a place where you can understand it, rather than just say facts and figures, getting somebody in a state of mind and getting them to feel where you were at a particular time makes them resonate with you a whole lot more. They can feel what you feel. Expert Secrets is a great book. Russell Brunson talks about something called the Epiphany Bridge. And there's two things, logic and emotion. You've heard the story that logic does not sell. Emotion sells. Logic closes. And essentially what that is have you ever gone out to eat and had a really good meal, or you went to see a really great movie and you just had this amazing, overwhelmingly great experience? Like the service was just amazing. And you wanted to tell your friend, the first person you ran into, or you picked up the phone and you made a call, right? And you're like, hey, Joe, this was a really great movie. You should really go see it. It had XYZ in it, or the restaurant was absolutely delicious. You got to go check out this steakhouse. It's absolutely phenomenal. And they just look at you and they say, okay. What's your response usually? Well, I guess you had to be there. And it's because you overwhelmed them with a lot of information right off the get-go. You didn't put them in a state of mind where they could feel what you felt. There was no emotional connection to what you experienced. They because they weren't there, they weren't seeing what you were seeing, feeling what you were feeling, they couldn't resonate with that. So telling a story and explaining that this service was great. The moment we sat down, they called us by name. They pulled out the chairs for us. They brought an appetizer that they knew from the last time that we've been there, that we ordered. It was already ready on the table, hot, absolutely delicious. They brought us a complimentary bottle of champagne because they remembered that on my account they had remembered my birthday, which was really made me feel special. Telling stories like that and putting someone like in basically walking a mile in somebody's shoes, so to speak, makes the connection to what you're saying a whole lot more effective. And that said, in MLM, I see it's really rampant, especially like the health ones. Like, you ever go to a hotel or a mall and they're like, hey, are you burning ketones? And you should try this product because it'll get you in a fastest state because you drink these 12 salts and you'll burn ketones, you'll burn fat, and it's really bombarding and really confusing right off the get-go. And when you sit down and have a conversation with somebody and you ask, hey, why did you get an MLM? A lot of times, at least in my experience, it's, oh, the product's great. I know it's got the best nutrients, or it's got the best quality, and the comp plan is fantastic, but that really doesn't answer the question as to why. Telling your origin story is kind of like the first episode that I put on this podcast, the MLM Hero Radio, was telling my story of the whole reason why I got into MLM as a whole. And that said, I wanted to put you in the same frame of mind that I was at, and how how hard it was not having money, how not being able to provide, but still being hungry for more and doing all the right things and feeling like I needed to reach out and I was looking for something. I wanted you to feel what I was feeling. So I was telling my origin story. So when you tell people whatever you're selling, it doesn't even have to be MLM, whatever you're selling, explaining your why. Simon Sinek actually wrote the book Start With Why. And people, he explains in it that Apple, as a good example, people that purchase Apple products, kind of like a cult following because they believe in Apple's message. People buy why you do something, not what you do. And it's very applicable in MLM. That people will gravitate towards you if they can understand where you are and being unpolished, being yourself, being vulnerable. It's literally what I'm doing on this podcast right now. It reminds me of one of Garrett White's quotes. When you start something, you're going to suck really bad. And eventually, if you keep doing that thing, you're going to suck so little, you'll actually be good at it. So I get it. I'm right there in the trenches with you. I understand. But the point is consistency. And that's why I'm doing this podcast. That's why I'm showing you the fact that I don't have all the answers, but I'm showing you what I know and what I'm learning. Because if it helps you, then that is a win. Anyway, that leads me to the closing sequence. Reviews and comments really do help me out. It helps iTunes and Spotify and all that good stuff with their metrics, but they're important for me because it helps me give you guys better quality content through really just messaging me and letting me know what you like, what you don't like. It doesn't really matter because I'll take all the feedback to always improve. But subscribe if you enjoy the content, if you want to follow me on my journey, because this is definitely something that will go far, because we're on this for the long haul. Anyway, I will see you guys in the next episode.